A simple title this week, Ring Circus, and the Connors are back in front of a live studio audience as well. Let's talk about the Connors. Hey guys, Dan here. This is Dan Reviews It, and welcome to my review of The Connors Season 4. We are now in the penultimate episode for the season, episode number 19. It is called Ring Circus, and finally, as they announced at the beginning of this episode, they are back shooting in front of a live studio audience. It's unfortunate this whole season that they have not been able to do that. I was wondering what the story was with that, because I know a lot of the talk shows went back in front of audiences months ago, but then again, we've got Stephen Colbert has COVID, Jimmy Kimmel has COVID, so I guess maybe in some instances it's better to wait. But these last two episodes, I guess, are both going to be live in front of an audience. When I first heard that come up in the first scene, I thought, oh, is this like a live episode, like live, because they've done a few of those. But no, it just means they're back in front of a studio audience. So anyway, before we get into the specifics of this episode, I do want to welcome you into Dan Reviews It. This is a channel where I do a lot of movie and TV reviews and weekly reviews of the Connors for every single new episode that they put on. So next week will be the last one for a few months. And we have not gotten word yet whether or not the Connors has been renewed, but it is one of the highest performing shows for ABC. So I can't imagine that it would not be renewed, but I think we'll get the word on that next week during the ABC upfront presentation for the fall season. But in any case, we hope that it's just season finale next week and not series finale. So let's talk about this particular episode here. So as we catch up with the end of last episode, Ben had proposed to Darlene at the hospital. She was laid up for falling through the roof of her creaky new house that they're repairing. So they decide, okay, this will be great. We're going to tell everybody over this big family dinner. But when they arrive, Neville, played by Nat Faxon, gets on his knees and announces his intention to marry Aunt Jackie. Everyone's, going crazy, screaming about it. Oh my gosh, it's so amazing. Laurie Metcalf, of course, giving us a great performance there. But that also inspires Harris's boyfriend, Aldo, who we've gone back and forth with for at least, a season and a half maybe with him. The thought process here is he's not really mature enough for her, even though he's a good bit older. But he is basically a man-child and an idiot. But she, of course, accepts this proposal. And now they're talking about, let's do a double wedding. So Darlene and Ben casually decide, okay, we're not going to bring up our stuff right now. We don't want any involvement in this. So, all right, next we discover that Darlene and Ben, well, I guess let's stay on them for a second. They are thinking about eloping because they don't even want people to know they're back together, let alone engaged now. So they come up with this plan. And meanwhile, Becky and the Katie Sagal character Louise are talking to Harris at what is theoretically a bachelorette party, but really they just wanted to get her there to voice their concerns about her marrying Aldo. Aldo's father returns in this episode, played by Joe Walsh from the Eagles, who we talked about that character last time, but I actually at the time did not know that it was Joe Walsh from the Eagles that was playing him, so I didn't mention it on the show. So I was glad to see him back so I could at least talk about it, because he's very funny, actually. I don't remember Joe Walsh doing a lot of acting back in the day, more just on the musical side of things, but he's very funny. So I was glad to see him back. But he as well was like, this is a miss for everybody. Don't do this. Aldo's going to ruin your life. Aldo himself shows up after Harris leaves, and they basically tell him, look, we told Harris we don't want this for her. You're going to mess things up for her. And then he starts talking about having kids. Becky thinks, oh my gosh, is Harris actually pregnant? He says, oh, no. We've just, sort of talked about it a little bit. And Becky suggests, okay, well, how about talking about it a little bit more if you want to have a baby soon after you get married? So that becomes sort of a sticking point for them. Meanwhile, we go back to Darlene and Ben. They are about to sneak out of the house to go elope. But Dan, what a guy. He's always on, ear to the ground. He knows all. In this particular case, they went ring shopping earlier in the day, and Dan got an email with a coupon from the jeweler saying like, hey, thanks for the recommend. And here's a little coupon for you. Somebody was in here on your behalf, buying 2 rings. So very, very funny exchange between Darlene and Dan. I would say the funniest part of the whole episode was her trying to sort of weasel her way out of it. And that whole scene actually was great with Dan, sort of giving them the guilt trip of, okay, well, if you're going to elope, sounds good. Maybe take a picture or two so, on my deathbed, I could look at them, whatever. So it was very, very funny. And finally, they relent and say, okay, fine, we will join this crazy circus. And that is why the title of the episode is 3 Ring Circus, because there's going to be now 3 marriages, which I sort of thought... Well, I didn't know about the 3 marriages. I knew next week's episode, the finale, was called A Judge and a Priest Walk into a Living Room. So in my mind, I thought, okay, well, Darlene and Ben are going to get married in the Connor household. And now we see, okay, well, I didn't sort of put together this week's title, 3 Ring Circus, last week when I saw that. But obviously we have now Jackie, Harris, and Darlene all getting married at the same time with some crazy ideas. And... Even little Mark appeared in this episode at the end, talking about, how excited he was. So DJ and Mary, of course, absent as always. I'm telling you, they better have DJ next week for the wedding. I mean, this is now 3 of his family members getting married in one fell swoop. We need to see DJ and Mary, I would think. But, the way this show goes, Michael Fishman appears in about 2 episodes a season. So who knows anymore. But in any case... I really liked this episode. I laughed a lot. I think it's one of the funniest episodes of the season. And it was great to see some of my favorite side characters. Although I could sort of take or leave, but I do like his father, and I really like Neville. I've always said this. I like that actor, Nat Faxon, a lot. And I sort of like his relationship with Jackie. I think it's a lot of fun. And what's really cool about that sort of dynamic is he is more younger to Jackie than Harris is younger to Aldo, but the age differential, it just doesn't matter as much. I think that's kind of the point. They want Harris to sort of, hey, you're 19, like, let's not get married yet, or 20, I think maybe now she is. And there was some riffing about that with Becky and her marrying Mark too early, and making a huge mistake and all of that. So, referencing some of the classic storylines from the Roseanne days. But no, I thought this was a really funny episode. I'm interested to see, what the wedding looks like next week. Oddly enough, we didn't have a tag scene at the end of this episode. It was a promo for next week's episode. That's weird. We usually see a tag scene, but maybe they're worried a little bit about the ratings slipping, and so instead of doing a cutesy tag or whatever, they just figure, well, let's just promote next week's episode, and hopefully people will tune in for it. And they did the classic, is it going to be, a happy occasion for the Connors, or are things going to go awry? And then they show, different people saying different things that could lead us in that direction. Look, it's not going to be a perfect wedding. It's the Connors, nothing is ever perfect here. Every week some new ill comes over this family. But thinking about the great wedding tradition of Roseanne and the Connors, I mean, we've had so many over the years. We've had, obviously, even back, not even part of the family, but Nancy and Arnie got married. I think that was during the Vegas episode? You guys will tell me in the comments, because it's been a few years since I've seen those older seasons. But I seem to remember Nancy and Arnie getting married, sort of when they went to Vegas with everybody. But then we had Crystal and Ed getting married, Ed being Dan's father. We had Jackie and, oh my goodness, I can't remember his name. He was the father of Andy, who I guess now does not exist anymore in this version of the Connors, in this iteration of the family. but I can't remember his name. Fred, that was it. So Jackie and Fred, I believe that wedding was on camera. Darlene and David, of course. Becky and Mark, I believe we did not see get married, because I think they did elope, if I'm remembering that correctly. But also, the biggest wedding of them all, the big gay wedding between Leon, Martin Mull's character, and the Fred Willard character. Roseanne put that together as, the gayest wedding ever. And that was very over the top and very funny. So look, this show and this family has a rich history of wedding traditions with their episodes. So I'm curious to see where this episode next week is going to take us. But for this episode, this was one of the best of the season for me, certainly in the humor department. I laughed a lot. Everybody got a little bit of time to shine. Louise and Becky going back and forth about their previous history with weddings and boyfriends and stuff. That was funny. Jackie freaking out, in the opening scene about getting proposed to. That was hilarious. The whole thing with Dan and Darlene in the living room was, for me, the best scene of the episode. And Joe Walsh, had a few lines, as well as all those fathers. So everybody got really a chance to shine here, except, I guess, there wasn't a lot of humor, I have to say, with Aldo and Harris. I don't really like the Aldo character. Not really because even he's, so much older and just a dum-dum, but it's sort of that second part, the stupidity of that character. They make him so stupid. And that's, of course, a classic sitcom trope. Nobody in the world is quite as stupid as Joey Tribbiani from Friends, or, that sort of goes back, way back to, the 50s and 60s sitcoms. But I don't know. I also don't think that Harris and Aldo are right for each other. And it really does have nothing to do with age. It's more maturity. I mean, I feel like she could make something of herself, and he would drag her down, like his father said. So I'm all for them sort of putting the brakes on that portion, especially if he's wanting to have a kid right away, and she's a little bit, not down with that. Obviously, there's a lot going on right now with the Roe versus Wade stuff, and carrying babies. So certainly she should have her own thoughts and views on whether or not she wants to get pregnant, aside from what he wants. So I think that could prove an interesting wrinkle in next week's episode. But I really like this episode overall. I'm going to give the MVP to John Goodman. I think, he was hysterical in that scene. Him and Sarah Gilbert, great back and forth. And the more this Connors goes on, and I would say I felt this way probably by the middle of the second season, the more I kind of appreciate the show without Roseanne. And I'm not saying anything ill towards her in that regard. Obviously, I love the original show too, but I think we've kind of said all we can say maybe about that character. And now we're seeing the lives of Darlene and Becky, when, now they are the age that Dan and Roseanne were in the 90s. And I love seeing sort of how they're growing and how things are different for them, whereas they also stay the same in some regards. So anyway, that's sort of a little tangent, but I would say I like this iteration, the Connors, so much more than the Roseanne season 10 reboot that we had. I really do, and I felt that way for a couple of years, but now that we're winding down the season, I figure I'll throw that out there again. But anyway, I will give this episode an A- for 3 Ring Circus, another good one. Excited for the season finale next week, and we hope it is a season finale, not a series finale. I really think, look, ABC has renewed the Goldbergs for season 10. That show is very, very long in the tooth, and the Connors performs better in the rating. So I would hope, unless it was a money issue, because everybody obviously probably does make a lot of money on that show, I can't see them dropping the axe on the Connors. So I hope for a season 5, of course. But yes, join me next week. We will review the finale, and I'll talk to everybody then. Bye.